Shawn, what is your ideal beach town?
What I've been looking for is a quick drive, to be honest, from here.
What's the criteria? Like
under 3 hours.
Under 3 hours.
Yeah, and really like what's available. That's, Delaware.
Are we
Ocean
talking
City, Maryland.
Ocean beach or
no? Not necessarily.
Could we be talking
so
like
it could
maybe
be lake?
could it be an estuary?
Could be wherever there's water
Could it be
that
a
I
river?
can go on. Yeah.
Could it be a babbling brook?
Potomac. It could be. Nah, I probably wouldn't go babbling brook, but
Could it be a
lake.
tributary?
No, I don't think so. Oh, that depends.
Could it be a reservoir?
No, I don't think so.
How's it going, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of the Shawn and Matt Show. My name is Matt. That is Shawn, and welcome to our show. Shawn, in today's episode, we're going to talk about Ramit Sethi's 5 questions you should ask before buying a house. Some people have been disagreeing with this on Twitter. We're going to get into the top 10 affordable beach towns for 2023. Then we're going to take a look at what is possibly Tennessee's most expensive property. And for Tennessee, for any state, it's pretty expensive.
Yeah.
And whether you are in or out on that property, as well as 2 other properties across the United States. Shawn, let's start with our good friend. Ramit Sethi says, should I buy a house? Ramit Sethi, I Will Teach You to Be Rich, best-selling author, now has a YouTube show. Should I buy a house? Ramit says, here's a checklist. Let's go through these questions one by one. Let's do this. I want to go through the questions. There's 5 of them. It's not an end-all be-all. It's a Twitter, engagement farm type of post. But I think that some of these questions and maybe all of them have merit. So, Shawn, the first question, will I live here for 10 plus years? How do you feel about that question? Will I live here for 10 plus years before you buy a house?
My initial thought, in some sense, I agree, but I think it's a little bit long. Because there are different types of houses you're buying, and it really depends on where and what you're buying. But I think what I tell people is I want to see at least 5 years, at minimum 5 years, because you have to let the market churn. And if you're going to sell within the first 5 years, there's a likelihood that you're not going to make your money back because there's a lot of costs that go into selling. So the longer you can stay, the better off you're going to be. We never know what markets are going to do, but 10 years to me, yes, people tend to stay longer in single family homes, but 10 years seems a little long. How about you?
Do you think when he's saying 10 plus years, do you think he's talking about single family homes, condos, townhouses?
I think he's talking single family homes. Yeah. I mean, let's face it, condo turnaround is a lot quicker and it's 3 to 5 years. And you can see a lot of equity in that time frame depending on where you are. If you're going nationwide, things don't bump in price as much as maybe our area, Arlington, Virginia does. But we have seen recently that the whole United States bumped up in prices very quickly. So I don't think there's, again, a solid line that you have to draw to say this is how long you should stay. I think more than 5 years or more is plenty.
If there's no solid line, I'm willing to draw the solid line. Here's my solid line. At least 3 years if you have a condo, at least 5 years if you're going to buy a townhouse, at least 10 years if you're going to buy a single family home. If you're looking at condos and you're saying, hey, I may not be here for the next couple of years, just rent. The transactional costs, if you sell within the first 3 years, are going to destroy any sort of gains. Townhouses, certainly you're eyeing that move up opportunity. Hold on to it for at least 5 years. Maybe you can rent it out after that. And, single family home, there's no reason you should ever sell a single family home, within the first 10 years of buying it.
Now, I'll go against this slightly because what happens is life, right? And so I personally bought a single family home. I bought a condo first, then I bought a single family home. My single family home, I only lived in it for 6 years, I believe, 5 or 6 years. And what we thought was going to be a long-term home. And honestly, I refinanced it thinking, I'm going to stay here for a long time. But then guess what happens? Kids happen and life happens. And all of a sudden you're like, all right, well, so it's impossible to say I'm going to stay here for 10 years because things happen. Life is going to change. So I would say the intention should be at least 5 years. And you know what? My house during that time frame went up in value enough so, and plus I did some cool stuff to it, but it went up enough in value that I covered my costs and made money. So I don't think there's a hard line in the sand, but I think it's smart to say what Matt said. You need at least 3 years in a condo. You need at least 5 years in a townhouse. Maybe 10 years in a single family. I think that might be a little long, but you want to stay for a longer time than just saying, I'm going to move in 2 years. If you're moving to an area and you're saying, I'm just going to move in 2 years, I don't think it's worth buying. Just go rent. Rent for 2 years and, don't hedge your bets or hedge your bets and just rent.
Let me ask you this about the house that you were fortunate enough to have money to fix up and do really cool things with. And then you were also fortunate enough to have the neighborhood property values rise pretty significantly. Did you and your wife have the conversation before buying of what happens if we don't like the neighborhood? What happens if we do want to move? What happens if this doesn't work out?
We didn't really have that conversation, to be honest. We knew what we wanted. We wanted a mid-century modern near a lake. We had driven through Lake Barcroft for a lot and realized, wow, this is a really cool, nice neighborhood that we want to live in. So we didn't think of maybe some of the other factors that made us move later, quicker than we expected.
So how long did you own the house for?
I was there just under 6 years, I believe, was the total amount.
So we're still that's still a fair time frame, even still if you're. And I know you're not shooting for 10 years, but you're not selling after 8 months either.
No, and you can't. I mean, anybody that's trying to do that is going to lose money. And I have somebody right now that I'm talking to that is looking to sell their house. They bought it 2 years ago, and yes, values have gone up in 2 years, but they also put a lot of money into it. And guess what? It's really difficult to make your money out. He's going to lose money. You're going to. It's just the reality. And he put a lot in. I have to say, he put $150,000 into the house. But you have to be careful on what you're going to do as far as what you're putting into the house, what types of renovations you're doing. Does the house already look good and you're just doing it for personal taste? Then that money might not go as far, right? But I think holding on for at least 5 years is definitely what you want to strive for.
Yeah, I think, I drew the hard line in the sand earlier. I think just having the conversation with your significant other, with your family, or with a trusted person, if you're going to be buying the house, single, ask a friend who's good with money. Even just having the conversation of how long do I plan on living here for? Will I be here for 10 years? What if I move to my dream home next to the lake? That's a mid-century modern and it doesn't work out. Even just having that conversation is a good thing.
Yeah, you have to have an exit plan. And sometimes those exit plans come quicker than you expect. So make sure that we'll get into the next things, but there's a couple things that he says in here that ring true.
So speaking of that, number 2, is my total monthly housing cost lower than 28% of gross monthly income?
It's a pretty strong one. I don't know about the exact percentage, 28%, but so if you're looking for a loan, a lender usually looks at a debt to income ratio of about 42% total, or 40, sometimes 45. You can get in those 40s. So the total debt to your house, 28%. I think that's a pretty good number, to be honest, because you have to think you have cars beyond that. You have maybe education that you've paid for. You have food and all the luxuries that you want to pay for. So make sure that you're on the lower side of your house payment. A lot of people push themselves to a high amount and they find themselves in trouble. So I think not pushing yourself beyond a certain limit is a good way of going about buying a house and being smart about it. So 28% is pretty good. Yeah.
I'm on board with this. If it's 28%, great. If it's 29, fine. 30, whatever. What I'm scared about is the 35, the 40, the 45. Shawn, I read these threads on Reddit where someone is saying, "Hey, I'm renting for $1,700, and I think I just deserve a house, and my mortgage lender said I can afford a house for $3,500." Like the rent versus the monthly mortgage is astronomically different, where there's no, sane reason that it would make sense. So my question to you, Shawn, is if you can think back to before you bought your lake house, the last time you were renting, what that rent payment was compared to your new monthly mortgage payment. Were those two numbers the same, or were those sort of drastically different where, some things had to be shifted around, or maybe you had to sell some more houses?
That's a really good point. When I was renting and then moved to my lake house, honestly, it was fairly close. So I was paying $3,200 a month in rent. And this was for a cool place.
Wow, say that again, $3,200 in rent? Were you throwing that money away?
I didn't feel so at the time. But
why didn't you feel that way?
Because it was a transitional place for me. I'm not going to buy just to buy because it's a transition. I knew it wasn't a forever place, so I'm not going to sink money into something that I don't know if the value is going to go up or down. I don't know how long I'm going to be here. If I know that this is just transitional, it's 2 years, I'm not buying for the most part. So I was paying $3,200 for a nice, sweet condo with a cool, you remember, you were in it once.
The condo was sweet.
It was sweet, right? It was right next to the metro. So my house payment, I went from $3,200 to $4,000.
That's really not that bad.
I went up $800. And if you think about the tax savings, I'm right back at $3,200.
It's really not that bad. I mean, you're going from a pretty dope condo to a pretty dope house.
Yeah.
And it's only $800. I think that's within the realm of like reasonable once you factor in, hoping for appreciation, which doesn't always happen, but and lifestyle.
Yeah, and I think that when I've never thought of that. Thanks for bringing that up because it wasn't that big of a transition. Yeah, it's always scary when you're buying something and then you buy something and then your wife quits her job and then all of a sudden you're like, oh, wait, I got to cover this all myself. Oh, this is great.
You got to cover the roof and any sort of leaks and whatnot.
Yeah, so that's actually what happened to me. But that monthly payment wasn't too much higher. Now, when I sold that house and moved to my next house, now we can talk about payment hike. But that's the way it goes.
Yeah, I think that's a little different, but
Yeah.
I'm wanted to do the rent versus buy.
Yeah.
Let's move on to the next question. Have I saved a 20% down payment? Shawn, we talk about down payments all the time. And I think we've made our thoughts pretty clear on how we feel about 0% down payments, 3% down payments. Shawn, what are your thoughts, just to kind of reiterate, and maybe you have different thoughts, I don't know, about 20% down payment?
20% down payment is great to have. It's a very conservative way of thinking on your money. And I agree with it in some instances, but there are a lot of opportunities that you're passing up when you're trying to save for 20% down. Think about what has changed in the last couple of years. If you would have been waiting to put 20% down and you could have put 10% down 2 years ago, guess what your interest rate would have been? Way, way lower. Now your opportunity costs are just gone. Like you've just waited to save another 10%. And now your interest rates are up 3% higher. So I don't think it's always the way that you should go to try to save 20%. There's definitely good programs out there for 5, 10, 15% down. And you're not scraping and trying to save the money. On the other hand, it's always nice to have a cushion, right? There are costs associated with putting less than 20% down, like private mortgages insurance, or your rate could go up. But think about what you could have lost in the last couple of years because you waited. And not only that, in certain areas, your property values rose so quickly too. So think again, 20% down, your value goes up $100,000. Look what you've lost right there. So don't always take it at 20%. 0%, I'd say save some money. 5%, the thing you've got to think about is that markets ebb and flow all the time. And if you are in there and you're saying, well, I'm gonna move in 5 years, and in 5 years the value comes down 5%, and you've only put 5%, guess what? You're now kind of in the hole. So there are definite risks to buying houses. You have to be careful. You have to have a long-term plan. And the other thing is, if you can't sell it, just rent it out and move and go rent somewhere. And I've done that. I've done the whole thing where I thought that I was going to buy this condo, I was going to live in it for a couple of years, and I was going to sell it because I thought all values are going up and it's going to continue to go up. But it didn't. It dropped. And then I found myself like, do I want to write a $60,000 check just to get rid of this thing? No. So I held on to it until the values went up, until my renters were paying down my mortgage enough where it made sense for me. And then once the values peaked, in my opinion, I said, I'm selling it. I got out. I paid off my truck. And all is good.
So you were not cash flowing on that property. You were losing money every single month.
Negative cash flow.
This is some grand plan, and then you started making all this money.
It was a negative cash flow at the time. Now, hindsight, if I would have refinanced that at like a 3%, I would have been able to cash flow. And you start thinking about that.
Why didn't you do that?
I just wanted out. I was in there for like 10 to 13 years or something like that. And I was just like, there's a certain thing, even though we're real estate agents, getting a renter in there every single year is a pain. And when you're doing it yourself, and it always comes out in the busy time, right? You always are trying to get renters in there in the spring. Spring is the easiest time to rent it. But when you're selling real estate every day, honestly, the last thing you're thinking about is, oh my gosh, I got to get somebody in that rental. They gave notice they're not going to rent another year. And mine was a 1-bedroom condo that flipped almost every single year. I had some really good tenants, but they flipped over every year. And so I'm like, I don't want to deal with this anymore. It's taking away from my business, my what I'm focusing on. I need to just let this thing go, take what I can out of it, and then, ease some of my payments. And at the time I had bought a Land Rover, right? So I had the Land Rover payment, and I'm like, this Land Rover is pretty expensive. So I took that money, I paid off the high percentage debt, and didn't have the payments anymore. Or I got rid of my car payment, and I dropped the negative cash flow. So I was then saving like $1,200 a month. So that's where my mind went.
I think the issue with these questions is once you start combining them, they can snowball into a pretty poor financial decision if you're not careful. So, if you haven't saved up 20% and you go like 3 or 5% down, if you're not living there for 10 years, you try to sell it 2 or 3 years after, which you touched on. And then if your costs are higher than 28% of your gross monthly income, then you're almost forced to sell and, forced to sell at a loss. So I'm not going to, the 20% down, that's not the hill I'm going to die on. If you want to put down 15%, great. 10%, fine. 5%, okay. And anything under 5%, I'm never going to encourage you, but I'm going to have some frank conversations with you to see what your comfort level is on the purchase.
Yeah. And honestly, the majority of the loans that I'm doing right now and Matt's doing right now is 10% and up, and typically more than 20%. Like the most that I'm seeing recently is 20% and higher, to be honest. But these people are selling a house and then flipping that money over to the next one. So it's always typically higher. I think these are really good core values for the most part for the general population. And I think that's what he's getting at. I think it's a good standpoint to think about when you are in a general, purchase standpoint.
Shawn, next question. Am I okay if the value of my house goes down? I think this is something that people don't think about. People think about the real estate always goes up. It always goes up. Yeah, if you bought in 1980, your real estate has probably gone up. But I just saw that the Austin, Texas real estate market has gone down something like 16.3% in the past year. Dave Ramsey said that the Austin real estate market can't go down. He says that doesn't happen. But if you look at the stats, Dave Ramsey, the Austin market has literally crashed 16%. So this isn't something where real estate markets always go up. They crash and they peak all the time if you go to a short enough time period.
Yeah, I don't think anybody is good with losing money, but you have to have that in your mind that will I be okay if it does drop? And like I said, markets change like that, and we've seen it drop. We are seeing drops in those markets while we're seeing rises in other markets. You have to answer that question. Honestly, I did not answer that question to myself the first time. Now, I'm in a home that I'm staying in for a long time. So if my values drop, they drop. I mean, they've come down from the peak. They're definitely down.
Do you watch your values?
I don't watch them, but I get an update on my own house because I have, HomeBot. So it'll shoot me a value and I'm like, oh, okay, it's down $100,000. That's great. But it was up so much over those time frames. So I'm not really worried about it because I'm going to be there for a long time. I have young kids that they're going to grow up in this house. So you can't really worry about that. But if you're in a short term, you're thinking of flipping, these are things you're worrying about all the time. And you're thinking about, all right, what if it does drop? Then can I rent it out and still stay cash flow positive? And that's one thing that you should think about is if it does dip and I can't sell or I don't want to sell, what rental value can I get from this? What is my payment? And where's that cash flow standpoint?
There's a saying in the short-term rental market that says you should underwrite your plan B. So if your plan A of doing whatever you're going to do doesn't work out, what is your plan B and what does that look like when you run the numbers? Not you and your wife living this happy ever after life in this perfect neighborhood, but what if something were to happen, whether it's the neighborhood, whether it's the partner, whether it's the house itself? What does that backup plan look like? That's something I don't think many people talk about, and that's something that many people need to have that conversation.
That's a huge thing that you should think about, and there are so many factors that Matt just mentioned and more, so you should always have a backup plan and know what you can get for a rental value, if you can cover. Yeah.
Shawn, last question. Am I excited about buying? How do you like that question?
I love that question, actually. You should be excited about buying. You shouldn't be like, whatever. Like, you should have an absolute excitement about looking forward to your life the way it's going to be once you do purchase that house, whether it's a first house, a second house, a beach house, or a rental property. That rental property, even if you're buying it for cash flow, should be exciting to you. And, I look at properties all the time, whether it's just for my clients or whatever, but for myself, and where I would be excited to purchase a house. And, sometimes when I think about cash flow, I'm like, oh, I could buy in Pittsburgh, because I feel like cash flow is good there because houses are cheap and rents are okay, so I could actually cash flow. Here, it's tough to cash flow. You've got to put a lot of money down to make sure that the property's cash flowing. But what you have here is the possibility of increasing values a lot more than, say, Pittsburgh does. And then, when I'm looking at beach properties, I'm like, well, where did I grow up going? Where do I love vacationing now? And those are the places that get me excited. Unfortunately, as we've seen, the values have just popped and it makes it unaffordable or less affordable. And that's why I've kind of pulled back a little bit on those. And I'm like, all right, I'm just going to watch these markets and see what they do. Interest rates are really high right now. I'm not a player purchasing a second home or a rental property at 7%. It makes the numbers a lot more difficult.
There's another saying, I think Ramit Sethi is actually the person that says it. He says to live outside the spreadsheet, Shawn. So I'm curious, when you have clients that you take them out to see houses and they're just so nervous, they are nervous Nellies, they're walking around and they can't take 5 steps without, almost having a breakdown from, the stress, the anxiety, the trauma of what if the water heater were to give out its past its useful life? Well, I saw the window might only be a single pane. It should be a double pane. It should be a triple pane. Shawn, my question to you is, where do you draw that line between being nervous and anxious to buy a house versus having a conversation where you say, hey, listen, a lot is going to happen when you own a house. I think you need to think long and hard and, maybe take the next year to rent and think about that just to make sure you're ready.
There are a lot of people out there that are not ready to purchase a house, and they don't have the responsibility to purchase a house. They don't have the resources to purchase a house or the resources to who to call or what to do when something happens. They're just not educated enough. And there's a ton of them out there. And you know what? It's fine to rent and just stay renting. On the other side, you're always going to be nervous when you're purchasing a house. This is a huge purchase for you. Even if I go buy another house, I'm going to be nervous, especially when you're in a market like we've been in where the prices are just astronomical. The competition is absolutely fierce. You have to waive finance contingencies, appraisal contingencies, home inspections. That's going to build that angst up. You're going to be scared to do so. And, I put myself in my clients' shoes all the time. And I try to explain to them, listen, you don't have to do this. And these are the steps that we should take to make you feel more comfortable. And that's why a good lender is so important. And, clients will say, oh, I want to use this lender because I used them in the past. Well, listen to me. I'm telling you, I've heard bad things about that lender. Just trust me in the fact that we're giving you a few lenders to choose from. And the reason we're giving you these is because they can explain how you waive that finance contingency, how you're going to waive that appraisal contingency, and it's really not going to affect you too much. And then it's up to us as agents to say, we need to get in and do a pre-inspection so you know what's wrong with the house, and then you can waive that. So when you add those things in, it's going to make everybody feel a little bit more nervous. And I've been there. I've thankfully lost some deals from my own personal life, and I was relieved when I lost it, because I was buying it for my wife. I didn't really want that one house, but we lost it and I wrote a really good contract. We just got smoked on the price.
If you're liking what you're hearing, be sure to hit the thumbs up button and, let us know your thoughts in the comment section down below on these 5 questions. Shawn, let's move to the next topic. This comes to us from Realtor.com. The top 10 most affordable beach towns in the United States. Let's count down the list. And this won't be... You got something to say?
I was just saying, see, now this gets me excited.
This gets you excited.
This gets me excited. And this is why I want to buy houses, like beach houses. I want to be at the beach, to be honest. But, I'm here in Arlington, which is, not bad at all.
Arlington used to have a beach. They used to have a beach over near Gravelly Point, like near the National Airport.
I think we got to bring that back.
Back in the day.
Hey, Arlington board members, let's start talking about beaches.
Did you vote?
I did.
You did?
I did.
My man.
I went home and I voted, baby.
Well, you're always talking about taxes and Arlington transparency. And then I'm so glad that you're Doing your civic duty.
I did it. It felt good too. And I met some of the candidates.
Did you really?
Outside of my voting? Yeah,
So
they were there.
multiple.
Yeah.
You must have been at a popular place to vote.
It was right at Westover Library, right in there by the school, and met a bunch of different people. It was nice to meet them.
Good.
Cool to see them, yeah.
Love to hear it. Top 10 most affordable beach towns in the United States. This isn't Malibu. This isn't South Beach. This isn't...
We need affordable beach towns.
Affordability.
Yes.
So... counting down the list, and this, this is taking median sales price. Number 10, Shirley, New York, which is on Long Island, on the south end of Long Island. Crescent City, California. North Beach, Maryland, which is kind of south of Deal, if you know.
Yeah. So
Deal, Maryland.
What I'll preface that was beach towns. That's Chesapeake Bay Beach, not Ocean Beach, right?
Correct.
So you have to, think with an open mind on this. That could be Chesapeake or even Potomac Beach, right?
Correct.
So
that's a fair point.
Yes.
These, I think some of these, well, most of them
Atlantic
look
City,
like we're gonna have some gulfs and some oceans and some rivers, I think.
Yeah.
So we have North Beach, we have Navarre, Florida, AC, Atlantic City, New Jersey, Corpus Christi, Texas, Grand Isle, Louisiana, New London, Connecticut. Shawn, let's do the top 3. So we have New London, Connecticut, where the average median price is about $257,000 for a property.
That's pretty awesome. Now, I don't know where that is. I'm not totally familiar with, what is it?
New London.
New London. Is that, do you know?
No.
Okay. Is that on do you know if it's on the actual ocean?
No, I've heard good things. I think it might be near Lyme, Connecticut.
Okay.
And if I'm wrong, just let me know in the comment section below.
$250,000 is
$250,000 now. I think it is, a condo. And with a lot of these places, you're going to have the condos bringing down the average price. So like the number 2 city is Newport News, Virginia. And I was like, you know what? Let me just look up houses in Newport News, because Newport News is coming in at a price of, let's get a drum roll, $200,000. So median price, 1 mile within the beach. So near the beach, within a mile, median price, Newport News, Virginia, $200,000. Well, I'm like, let me just see what's on the water. Yeah, it's not going to be $200,000. It's going to be $800. It's going to be $1.8. It's going to be $900.
Anything on the water anywhere is just astronomical anymore.
So $200,000 median for Newport News. You ever been down to Newport News?
I've been in the area, but I can't say that I've been to, Newport News, proper.
So some where I was looking and did a little Google Street View, did some Zillowing, did some Realtor.coming. It actually looked pretty nice. It looked bad. Now, getting to Newport News, not a fan.
Oh, man. 95? Horrible. I actually just had a client sell their property and move down there. And he got a single-family home with a pool in the backyard for $350,000.
Wow.
So pretty sweet. Yeah.
Okay. Well, let's go to number 1, which comes to us at Gulfport, Mississippi, with the median price within 1 mile of the beach is $224,900 with the median price per square foot of $144. Shawn, Arlington's price per square foot is what, 500?
Yeah,
around 500 per
Depends
per
on what
square
you're buying,
foot.
5, 6. Yeah,
but Gulfport, Mississippi, 1 mile within the beach, $225,000.
Amazing. And I've heard a lot about Gulfport, Mississippi, and not that I know much about it, but I've heard about the prices there being lower. And I guess I got to go traveling. I've got to go check out these places.
What is your ideal beach town? Because it's one thing to say, hey, if you go to Mississippi, you can get a house for $225,000. Well, how much does it cost to fly there? How much does it cost to rent a car there? How much does it cost to get all the stuff there?
What are the amenities? Where are you going to go out to eat?
How often are you going to go there?
Yeah.
So, Shawn, what is your ideal beach town?
What I've been looking for is a quick drive, to be honest, from here.
What's the criteria? Like
under 3 hours.
Under 3 hours.
Yeah, and really like what's available. That's Delaware.
Are we
Ocean
talking
City, Maryland.
Ocean beach, or
no? Not necessarily.
Could we be talking
so
like
it could
maybe
be lake?
Could it be an estuary?
Could be wherever there's water
could it be
that
a
I
river?
can go on. Yeah.
Could it be a babbling brook?
It could be. Nah, I probably wouldn't go babbling brook, but
could
it could
be a
lake.
tributary?
No, I don't think so. Oh, that depends.
Could it be a reservoir?
No, I don't think so. It just depends. It could be a lake. I've looked at Lake Anna. I've looked at Deep Creek, but they've gone up in value so much that it's like, oh, I can't.
Well,
I can't do
listening
anything.
from what you said earlier, you need to get in. You can't save for 20%.
You're right.
You need to get in
You're
now
right.
because it's just going to keep going
It
up.
could, and that's the thing. That's the problem. But do we know that for sure? Because now second homes and everything's starting to change again, and we've got to look at what the work values are going to be, what the work, whether the workers are going back to work and they have to sell these places, because a lot of people said, I'm living on the beach and I'm going to work from my beach house just from the internet, and that's going away. So there are going to be some areas that start pulling back in value, and that's where it's never an easy game. You have to be okay with losing. You just got to get in at some point. And, I'm not quite in the risk, I'm still risk averse. I'm not ready to risk my livelihood and my dollars that I have in the account for a second home or a beach house or whatever it is. I have to make sure that it can cash flow. Right. And so
you're more cash flow based than appreciation based.
it depends. It depends.
With Deep Creek, it sounds like you want both. You want it to cash flow, but then you also think it's going to go up in value.
I think Deep Creek probably, honestly, is a little bit too far. I've never really been to Deep Creek, but
that's not under 3 hours. That's at
3.5. Yeah, it's pretty far. I would say Lake Anna is a really good option, but you're going 95 south. You're still going to hit it, but it's close.
I could see you at Lake Anna.
Yeah,
I could see that.
I could see that. And the other thing is, I have an opportunity. Maybe in Ocean City. I grew up going to Ocean City, so I still love it. It's like, it's where you've always been. And yeah, I know the Delaware beaches are more beautiful, and I know whatever. But you know what? Ocean City just has everything, man.
You
it's
like
a carnival on the
familiarity.
water.
You don't like to change. Once you find something, you're sticking with it.
Yeah, there's areas that I love, like the whole Tampa area in Florida, and like the Longboat Key I love, and like there's a lot of spots in Florida that I love, and that's because of beautiful beaches. Really, that's what gets me. And not only beautiful beaches, but like there has to be something close to. I don't want a deserted beach out there in the middle of nowhere with nothing to do, because I would get really bored. I'm a city guy that loves the beach, so I need something close. I need bars on the water. I need to go put my feet in the sand with a drink and hang out, and not be by myself all the time. I need people around me to feed my energy.
How about, if you're risk averse, how about a timeshare? I think Fenderbosch's brother could probably hook you up with a timeshare in Longboat Key.
That's true. My wife actually sold timeshares for a little while.
Really?
Yeah. After watching that, no, I'm not a timeshare
Did
guy.
you know that timeshare exit companies are now being sued? There was some monumental lawsuit where
really?
timeshare exit companies are now getting sued for their shady practices.
Wow.
I wonder if there's a timeshare exit exit company out there.
Well, that's the thing, is like there's always people that are going to take advantage of you. No matter what you're doing, they're going to take advantage of you. Where you're buying a timeshare, they're going to take advantage of you. Where they're selling a timeshare, they could take advantage of you. Where you're buying or selling real estate, there are people that will take advantage of you. And that's the thing, is you've got to watch out for. Find the people that are true to themselves, that you can kind of see what they're about, and then, go forward. I personally am not a timeshare guy. Well, let's put it this way. Timeshare, in a certain way, I would invest with a couple of friends of mine to purchase a house that we could all share. It's not a timeshare, but it is a timeshare. It's just you don't have a big company behind it.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm actually looking into that right now.
So you're looking into an unofficial timeshare.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay, let's move on to in or out, whether Shawn battles in or out on 3 properties. First property, a timeshare. No, just kidding. First property, Mansion Global. A Tennessee estate is asking $65 million, which could shatter the state record. Owned by Oak Tree Capital Management co-founder Larry Keel, the home sits on about 383 acres with an observatory and a putting green. In the hills outside of Nashville, roughly 383 acres is coming on the market for $65 million. Shawn, take a look at 5845 Old Highway 96, built in 2018. We have 5 bedrooms, 9 baths, 10,000 square feet. You heard it, 400 acres. It's got essentially everything you need. I don't know if you would ever leave this house. It simply has it all, and it's $65 million, which the previous record for Tennessee was something in the 20 millions. So
Jeez.
Now we're 3 times above the previous Tennessee record. Shawn, are you in or out on the Tennessee property. Wait, it's got to have a name. Let's give it a name. It's got Twin Rivers Farm. Shawn, are you in or out on Twin Rivers Farm for $65 million?
Matt, I'm a little bit worried that it could come down in value, but if I have $65 million to blow, then I'm buying it, man.
Are you gonna live there for more than 10 years?
I'm going to, because I don't have to leave, like you said. And if I leave, I'm going to Nashville. I'm just going to go drive to Nashville, get my city in, and then I'm going to come back to this beautiful property that honestly is, from what I see, the short pictures. Matt gives me very little time to make a decision. So I have to make a decision quickly. Unlike some of my clients.
you gotta make a decision on $65 million in 10 seconds.
Yeah. This is beautiful. It's gorgeous. Indoor pool, putting green, big chest. You got everything. You got a lake. You got estuaries. You've got everything.
Pickleball and tennis courts.
This is amazing. I am purchasing this property, even though it's 3 times more expensive than anything in Tennessee. I'm buying it. I love it.
Shawn, I'm scrolling through the pictures, and there's like randomly a person in some of the photos. Are you in or out on having people in a real estate listing photo?
I'm in. I think it's a little different.
You're in?
Yeah.
There's just a lady running in the woods.
Yeah, but look how vacant it is without it, you know? Oh, there's a nice, look what you can do. You can run in the woods. It gives you an idea. Sometimes buyers have no vision. And so if you show them, you know, like we've done, kayaking on a lake and things like that.
Okay. So you can't imagine someone sitting at a makeup
That's a
mirror
little
without
weird.
a person?
Inside the house, outside the house, yeah. Inside the house, a little
I mean,
different.
they're taking a picture of her in the bathroom. I don't know if I would take a picture of someone in the bathroom for a listing photo.
It's just so, you know, she's just fixing her hair in the bathroom. But yeah, I don't think you need those. But gorgeous house, $65 million, 3 times higher than anybody else has paid. I don't care. I'm buying it. I think it's a nice property.
I am also in because I would never leave. Like, I got my pickleball court. I have the body of water.
I can go fishing.
There's 400 acres. You know how much you can do with 383 acres?
Oh, so much.
You could do so many things.
You could get 4-wheelers. You could go hunting. You could go fishing. You could go in your pool. You could play pickleball. Speaking of pickleball, guess what I got for Father's Day?
Pickleball paddle.
Yeah.
Yes. Let's go.
I'm in, man.
He's
sold.
In.
I played once, and
you're hooked.
I already had paddles.
You're like the stages of pickleball. It's like curiosity and now excitement.
It's fun.
I think you're in excitement.
Good time.
All right, let's move on to the next house. Shawn, this comes to us from Monterey, California. Former President Herbert Hoover, 31, is his house, which he previously lived at, is up for sale. Now, let's take a deeper look at this. It is a cottage in Monterey on Martin Street that was used as a hunting lodge and vacation retreat for Hoover and his family. One interesting feature inside the history-rich house, Shawn, is that there's a wall that was used as a growth chart for Hoover's growing sons. And he marked the line.
Cool.
Do you do that with Bodie? Well, you just repainted, so maybe
ain't doing it now, man.
Maybe you paint it over.
No,
Bodie, take it. Get the crayon out of your hand.
We did that growing up. I had that at my grandmother's house. We started to do it, but we got smarter and we said, all right, we're just going to get this thing that hangs from the door, and then we're going to do the growth chart on there so you can take it with you. So we do have that, but that's cool. It's neat to see that.
So the way they got the house is Herbert Hoover's spouse, Lou Henry, met Herbert at Stanford, and then Lou purchased the cottage from her parents for a $500 gold piece, just like a piece of gold for $500. And then that is how they got the cottage. So, wow. Shawn, let's take a look at 600 Martin Street, $2.395 million. It is 6 bedrooms, 5 bathrooms, 4,500 square feet, and it really has like the cottage wooden vibe going on. You can take a look as I'm scrolling through the photos. It is not small whatsoever. You have some indoor, outdoor living, plenty of space. Love the functionality. The kitchen, may need some updating. Are you in or out on Herbert Hoover's former house for $2.3 million?
Matt, do you have a map view, please? Can you show me a map view? I don't, I'm not so familiar with Monterey, California. I don't know exactly where those would be. So I'd really like to know location before I give you a yes or no.
I'll tell you what, Monterey, I looked it up. It's a place you want to be.
Yeah.
Now, have I ever been? No. Will I ever go? Hopefully, because there's some really good golf in the area. But it's right on the water. Yeah. It's not LA. It's not San Francisco. It's not San Diego. It is Northern California. You got a little bit of a bay there.
Okay.
And then you are walking distance, Shawn, The house is basically right here. So you are walking distance to downtown Monterey.
Yes, Matt, I am in on this. I think it's a really cool departure from probably what's there. The fact that it's kind of that cabiny feel. It looks from the exterior, it looks kind of like a mid-century modern feel. But when you go inside, it's very wood. Everything is wood, which is technically not really what I'm after. But for something I could see, like, sitting back, sipping some whiskey, just chilling out in this place. That's the kind of vibe I get. I'm digging it. For $2.4 million, I'm in.
It definitely strikes you as a hunting lodge.
Yeah, and in this instance, hunting lodge, and not only that, the history, right? What'd you say? What president was he? Like 31?
31.
So how many ago was he?
So he was right at, you got the Hoovervilles. So he was during the Great Depression, I believe. He was 1929 to 1933, around that time frame.
Those of you that don't know, there have been 46 presidents. So that was 15 presidencies ago, which is kind of crazy.
That sounds recent. 15.
It does, 15, but you think about 4 to 8 terms, 4 to 8 years per term. Now you're talking, how many is that? 60 to whatever, to 80, whatever years. So that's a long time because presidencies, let's face it, they last pretty long, 4 to 8 years.
It's also got a 600 square foot studio with a separate entrance, private patio, full kitchen and bathroom. Shawn, I am in. I love the historic feel to it.
Yeah.
This isn't like Jackie Kennedy. It's like an actual president.
Yep.
I love the historic feel to it. 2.4 for 4,500 square feet in Monterey.
Actually a good deal.
Sounds like a good deal.
Yeah. Not that we know Monterey.
Monterey agents, come after us in the comments.
Like, what are you talking about? That's $1 million overpriced.
Yeah. Sounds
For us,
like a
I don't
good
know.
deal.
It sounds good.
I love everything about it. I'm all in. I'm all in.
Yeah.
So head first, all
Digging
in.
it.
Shawn, we're going to revisit a story that we did a couple months back. The Doomsday do-over. Revamped former missile complex in Nebraska targets the price. Gotta love these headlines. For $750,000. Keep in mind, Shawn, this property was $550,000 when we profiled it back in 2022. Now it's on the market for $200,000 more at $750,000. It's essentially a doomsday bunker, a decommissioned missile complex. They've done everything. They've put in the flooring. They have done the new kitchen. It would make, they haven't done everything. There's still some things that need to be done, but they've completely renovated the actual living space. They say it, it could be an Airbnb, it could be a vacation home, it could be, a weekend getaway in Nebraska if you're getting away in Nebraska. It's a 1-bedroom, 1-bath. That's 1,256 square feet. Shawn, for $750,000, are you in or out on the Doomsday bunker?
Matt, when you first showed this to me, I was like, wow, that looks pretty cool. They've done some really nice updates to it. I didn't realize we had talked about it before. What this doesn't do for me is get me very excited, because the thing is, you're still in the middle of nowhere. I passed on it before because it was in the middle of nowhere and it looked awful. I'm still passing. I don't care what you do to this property. I'm still passing on it because it's still in the middle of nowhere and it kind of still gives me the creeps. So for that, and for $750,000 for a 1-bedroom in Nebraska, I don't know, man. That seems really high. So I'm out.
I'm out too. There's no way anyone's making money on this, right? I mean, you buy it for $550, you renovate it for another, $50,000, $75,000. They're asking $750. I don't think they're going to get $750. Not an expert in Nebraska missile silo sales. Don't think that they're going to get $750,000. Yeah, if you want to Airbnb it, great. I mean, who's going to come to Nebraska? You essentially have to create your own market for this Airbnb. The logistics of it, the grocery stores, the internet. You're down there. Do they have radon gas down there? You're so far in the ground. It's kind of scary to me. I don't know if I'd want to be submerged underground, with
that's a really interesting point.
So
radon gas, radon. I mean, you're way below ground. How are you mitigating basically a silo underneath the ground? I'm sure it's possible. You still just got to put a fan on, but yeah, it brings up a really good point. I wonder if I could do a radon test, a radon inspection.
Yeah, I'm out on that. I'm gonna go back to my $65 million Tennessee
Not only that,
estate.
there could be old nuclear stuff.
Yeah,
there,
who knows what's down there. Well, let us know what you think. If you're in or out, drop a comment in the comment section below. And for Shawn and myself, thank you so much for watching. Until next time, we'll see you then.
Take care.